Welcome. I'm on my own for a very special, a short and sweet episode. I'm just going to put my clapper down of the New Levels Coaching podcast. We thought it would be really nice to have a short episode between the Christmas and New Year, the festive period, where our listener and viewers can tune in and have a bit of reflection time on everything that we have brought you in 2023 so far. So I am on my own for this episode. I didn't want to bring a guest in for this, but I just want to reflect on the episodes that we've had so far, right back from episode 1, which was the founder story, to the most recent one where we talked around running through Christmas and training through New Year, and bring you my top tips and my reflections on the story so far with the NLC podcast. Remember, our aims of this podcast is to provide the endurance world with inspiration education that you can literally go away and run with. We want you to go out the door, be listening to this, to be sharing our podcast with your friends, your family, however it is that you think will benefit from hearing us and talking about the things that we're so passionate about, and then sharing those episodes with people so that they can get the most out of their running and hopefully enjoy the episodes and get something from each and every one of them. So where do we kick off? We kicked off with the founder story, and Gemma came on the podcast and actually interviewed me for the very first time about where NLC started, why it was set up, and hopefully that showed the passion we had around coaching and the reasons why we coach people from all around the world. And my first tip from episode 1 really is to not just the runners and the triathletes and the endurance athletes out there, but it's particularly for business owners and people who are maybe thinking about setting up their business, or anybody who's in a line of work that they're really passionate about, is follow your passion. You know, that's what I did when I set up NLC. I followed my passion, which was running and coaching in particular. And despite a lot of negativity around online coaching, particularly online running coaching at the time, I felt like we could offer something different to the online coaching market. So I followed my passion and I set up NLC, and I'm so glad I did. 5 years later, we're in such a strong position. We've met some amazing people. We've got some incredible stories, and we continue to go from strength to strength. So my first tip for our listeners and our reflection from our earlier episodes is follow your passion. And I said that with a very northern accent, didn't I? That led us on to episode number 2, where we brought in the new head of coaching, who I want to give a special thanks to, Jethro McGraw. Jethro is somebody who walked in the door earlier on in the year. I knew I wanted to work with him. I knew he could offer a lot to NLC, and we brought Jethro in as our head of coaching at New Levels Coaching, where I'll be honest, it's quite a new role. It's something that we thought of for Jethro, and he's absolutely took it by the scruff of the neck. He's a young coach, he's a developing coach, and he's one of the best coaches in the business. The guys over at Birmingham Uni, who he works closely with, will vouch for me on that. And, our coaching staff will sing it from the high heavens that we have got a very, very special person in Jethro. My biggest learning from Jethro's first episode, and I'm sure a lot of people talk about it, and I know a lot of people still talk about it now, was our A, B, and C goals. You know, people fall into the trap of trying to have too many A goals and they forget what they're aiming towards. So minimize those A goals, maybe 1, 2, maximum of 3 a year. You know, don't try and overperform on too many occasions. Set yourself some B goals that you have in your plan as well, and some C goals that you're potentially training through that are all part of that process. So that was one of the big learnings from Jethro's. You'll see if you're on YouTube, I'm looking at all the episodes in front of me. Episode 3 was dealing with injuries. So we looked at that with Gemma in particular, who struggled with a lot of injuries over the last couple of years. And I think a reflection from that was, you know, we can control a lot of things with our injuries. We can put a lot of effort into trying to prevent those injuries. Sometimes they just happen, but it's really important that you do the work and you put in all that effort to try and prevent them. So conditioning, Gemma calls them all the big things. Don't see them as little things that just accompany your training, your running training, your cycling training, your swimming training. It's the things like the gym work, the conditioning, the stretching, the rehab, the prehab. They're the big things that are going to help you to do the things that you love to do. Then we went into trail running and UTMB. There's lots of exciting trail running adventures coming up for NLC in the new year. My best advice with trail running is go and try it. I've absolutely fell in love with it since I tried it. I'm going to say no more than that. go and try it, go to the mountains, go and explore. Again, follow your passion. If you're passionate about the great outdoors and getting into mountain life, then why not try out some trail runs? There's some great ones here in the UK. You don't just have to go abroad, but find yourself a trail run, and why not get involved? Episode 5 was long-term planning, linked back to those A, B, and C goals. Gemma and I spoke about the long-term plan. Do you have a long-term plan? I don't need to say much more than that. I think you've got to really be working towards a long-term plan and a big goal. If you're not, you can get a little bit lost. We talk about that quote. I spoke about that on a recent episode with Jethro, and we said about if you, if you have a goal without a vision, then it's just a nightmare. Sorry, have I got that right? Let me get this right, because it's a really important quote, because I love this quote. So it's all about having a goal and making sure that you have a vision towards that goal, because if you don't, then you're just dreaming. So if you've just got this goal and you actually don't have a plan, you don't have the vision towards that goal, then it's just a daydream. You're just daydreaming. But likewise, if you're just, going about your day-to-day business and you're not following a plan, then it becomes a nightmare. So a goal without vision is just a daydream, but vision without that goal can be a nightmare. So you've got to have both working for you at the same time. Then we went on to the importance of rest and recovery with Matt Long. It was a super episode. Really enjoyed that one. My biggest takeaway from that is don't be afraid to take time off. We have this kind of this Western culture mindset built into us where we think we've got to work harder, we must work harder, but actually taking some downtime. It's been a big thing for me this year. Starting to rest more so that you can get the best out of yourself is so important. Episode 8 was about picking your races. Again, we could, look back at the A, B, and C goals here and pick out some races that you want to do, but we actually picked out our best moments, and reflecting on those moments as well and celebrating your successes is really, really important. Episode 9 was all things triathlon. We brought Kirsty onto the podcast, who heads up our triathlon coaching here at NLC, and that was brilliant, fascinating for me to hear a lot more about the triathlon side of the endurance world. It's a side that we've had a lot of success in over the past few years, particularly with Great Britain, with the Brownlee brothers, with Alex Yee. We've seen big success in the longer distances as well, with people like Lucy Charles Barkley. Beth Potter recently come on the scene as well. She's doing fantastically well. There's so many people who have done really well from a Great Britain perspective, and it was really good to talk to Kirsty about, what does triathlon training look like? What about if you're thinking about doing a triathlon? What should you be thinking about? So that's a really good episode to go back and listen to if you haven't listened to that already. Remembering John Nuttall was a very, very heartfelt episode. That was episode 10. That was something that we felt like we wanted to do. I, in particular, wanted to do that. I will miss John, and it was his funeral recently, and I still get upset talking about it now. John had a massive impact on my life, and the purpose behind that episode was to show the impact coaches can have on people's lives. So I hope all the coaches out there enjoyed that episode. It's the most feedback we've ever had from a single episode. So I know that it was the right thing to do, and I'm glad we did it now. I had so many hesitations around doing it. I was quite nervous about doing it, but I know that it went down really well, and a lot of people got a lot of joy from it. So thank you for that feedback. It meant a lot, and I know it meant a lot to the family, them reading people's comments and things as well. So we're always thinking about the family still, especially as Christmas comes up. But I know they were very thankful for that episode, and people sharing their stories. People sent their stories in. So thanks for the team for sharing your stories with me. I know a lot more was shared at the funeral as well, which was a sad day, but it was really nice to listen to all those stories with John and the coaching groups that he's impacted over the years. Episode 11 was looking at our learnings, reflections. I was thinking, what do we look at? Reflections. Yes, that was Jethro, Gemma, and myself, that coaches round table. That was really good. I really, really enjoyed that one. Fantastic episode. I would encourage you, that's one of my biggest things for you as our listeners and viewers to go away and do, is go down, sit down and reflect on what you have learned in 2023 that's going to help you in 2024. We then had the marathon with Sonia Samuels before Valencia, and Sonia ran fantastically well in Valencia, just missing out on her personal best. I think it's amazing. She's well into her 40s now. She's inspiring mums to go out there and still be your best well into your 40s. So, age is just a number number. Sonia is proving that with abundance. We're very proud to have Sonia as part of our coaching team at NLC. But my biggest reflection from that episode would be, never give up. Keep going. If you've got a dream, keep following it. And Sonia proves that and more. After the marathon, we had Jethro back in. We touched on the Euro cross country. We looked at cross country in particular. We analysed the Great Britain performance. We looked at what you can learn from the elites. My biggest reflection on that episode is probably that people don't think that they can learn from elite athletes, and you absolutely can. You can watch what they do, you can learn from them, and you can really dive deep into what they do, and you can get a real good understanding of how to better your performance. And then recently, episode 14 and 15 as we go into the new year. I want to make sure, I've missed one here. Hang on, I need to scroll down. Bear with me if you're on YouTube. I've missed episode 13. Bear with me. I've just remembered, actually, I don't need to scroll down. It was Matt before that episode with Jethro. I had Matt back in for part 2, which is a really, really good episode. And we spoke about the date time and the date pace against your goal pace and looking at that over a period of time. So that's a really good episode to listen back. And apologies to Matt for missing that one out. It was just that I needed to scroll down on my screen. I couldn't quite see all the episodes, so I'm rejigging my memory to find out what we've been through. But looking at that date pace, that goal pace, getting away from the watch, running to split, running to feel. Again, I always bang on about this. It wasn't just a takeaway from that podcast, but I think it's really important to get an understanding, athletes to get an understanding of how to run to feel. And I think it's becoming more and more important, especially with these marathons and big events becoming busier and busier on the roads and in built-up areas. People try to rely on the watch, and you absolutely can't. So yeah, we had the marathon. We had that running to split, running to feel with Matt. Then we obviously had the European cross country with Jethro, which I've just touched on. The most recent episode with Gemma about running through Christmas and the new year. Again, I don't really need to provide many reflections on that because hopefully you've just listened to it. And that brings us to right here, right now, episode 15 of 16. I'll get my numbers right eventually. God, there's that many weeks gone by that I'm struggling to keep up, but it is, let me get my clapper, it is episode 16. And with that, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to head over and out for the new year. I want to say a big thanks to you all again. I said that in our last episode for supporting the podcast. It really has been brilliant bringing it to life. And I feel like we've had some amazing guests who I'll be forever thankful for. And hopefully we'll get some, I wouldn't say some better guests, 'cause I'm not sure we can, but hopefully we'll bring you some more amazing episodes in 2024. And I hope that you continue to tune in, continue to share the podcast, share it with family, friends, other endurance athletes around the world, because we want them to not just hear our story, but we want them to hear the stories that we bring you every week. And we want them to literally run with that inspiration and education. For now, I want to wish you all the best for the new year. Hopefully you've tuned in and heard this between Christmas and New Year. And I hope you're going to set some big goals for the new year. And I hope you go on your way to achieving them. We will see you out there on the roads, the tracks, the trails, wherever it may be. Enjoy your training, and we'll see you soon.